The dessert was still asleep when the sun began to rise. A soft, pale light spilled over the endless sands, turning them from black to gold. The research outpost sat quietly. In the middle of this lonely place, small, metallic, and almost invisible from the sky. Only the hum of its generators and the faint crackle of radios broke the silence. Inside the observation dome, Mark sat in front of a glowing screen. He was a linguist, but at that hour, he wasn't working on alien languages or strange symbols. He was sipping stale coffee and trying not to doze off during the overnight watch shift. The dessert outside was calm, as it always was. Then, something caught his eye at first. He thought it was a shooting star, bright silver streak cutting across the pink morning sky. But it didn't fade away. It slowed down. It grew larger. And it was coming straight toward the outpost. Mark froze, his coffee halfway to his lips. Up control. You might want to look at this, he said into his headset. The streak became a shape. The shape became a craft. It was smooth and elegant, like a drop of liquid metal. No wings. No engines, just a seamless oval that shimmered faintly in the light. It moved silently, not disturbing a single grain of sand until it stopped above the ground. Just outside the dome, Mark's breath caught. This is it, he thought. First contact, the entire outpost came alive. Scientists and soldiers rushed to the dome's viewing area. Someone shouted for cameras. Someone else shouted for translators. Mark stayed rooted in place, watching the craft hover before it slowly descended. Landing on the sand with the gentleness of a falling feather, a seam appeared in its surface, and a section slid open with a hiss of cool mist. Out of the opening stepped 3 tall figures, each dressed in ornate armor that gleamed green and gold. Their faces were hidden behind curved masks, and in their hands they carried long, spear-like weapons. They moved aside, and then she appeared, the queen. She was taller than any human in the room, though her frame was slender and graceful. Her skin had a faint silver blue tone, like moonlight on water. Her hair, if it could be called that, was a cascade of fine, soft strands that shimmered in shifting shades of green, as if tiny leaves were woven into them. Her eyes were bright and sharp, the color of a deep emerald forest. Her clothing was a flowing robe of layered silk-like material, decorated with golden symbols that seemed to shift when you looked at them from different angles. Every step she took was slow and deliberate, the sand never daring to cling to her feet. Mark had seen hundreds of alien images during his training, but nothing prepared him for this. She looked both delicate and powerful, like a blade hidden inside a flower. The guards stopped a few steps from the outpost entrance. One of them touched a device on their wrist, and the air shimmered like heat above a road. A moment later, the alien queen spoke. Her voice was calm, clear, and, to Mark's shock, perfect English. Her gaze swept over the gathered humans before settling directly on him. She tilted her head slightly, as though studying him with deep interest. Then she said the words that silenced the room completely. "Are you single, human?" Mark blinked. He was fairly certain his brain had stopped working. He glanced around to see if anyone else had heard her, but every single scientist, soldier, and technician in the room was frozen in the same disbelief. What? He managed. The queen's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but not unfriendly either. "Your answer," she said simply. Nobody spoke. Even the commander of the outpost looked lost for words. This was not in the first contact handbook. Mark swallowed. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even know why she was speaking to him. Out of all the people present, he was just the linguist, not a leader, not a soldier, not anyone important. Before he could answer, the queen lifted her hand slightly, a gesture that made her guards lower their weapons. "You wonder why I ask," she said, her tone calm but carrying a weight of command. "I will tell you soon." Mark's heart pounded in his chest. This was not just an alien visitor. This was a ruler, someone who could order fleets, someone who could change the future of humanity with a single decision. And right now, she was looking at him as if he were the key to something. A breeze whispered across the desert, carrying with it the strange scent of the queen's presence, a mix of flowers and cold metal. Mark could feel dozens of eyes on him, both human and alien, He didn't know it yet, but that moment, with the sun climbing higher behind the alien craft and the Queen's eyes locked on his, would change everything, not just for him, but for Earth itself. The silence inside the observation dome felt heavy, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Everyone was still frozen from the strange question the alien queen had asked. Only the quiet hum of the generators reminded them that time was still. Moving. Mark stood in the same spot, unsure if he should speak or wait. His mind spun in circles. Why me? Why that question? The queen stepped forward, her long robe trailing softly over the sand. The golden symbols on it seemed to ripple like sunlight on water. The guards followed at a respectful distance, their spears now resting against their shoulders. When she reached the base of the dome's entrance ramp, she stopped. Her bright green eyes scanned the humans gathered inside before returning to Mark. "I am Salura," she said in her smooth, calm voice, "first ruler of the Virian Empire. My people are many, but they are incomplete." Her words were slow, deliberate. It was as if she wanted each one to sink deep into the minds of her listeners. Mark exchanged a quick glance with Commander Reeves, the man in charge of the outpost. The commander gave a tiny nod, silently urging him to respond. Mark cleared his throat. "Incomplete. How?" he asked cautiously. The queen tilted her head slightly. "We have strength. We have knowledge. We have conquered dangers among the stars. But in gaining these things, we have lost something else, something my ancestors once knew. My people do not laugh as yours do. We do not dream as yours do. We do not feel as yours do." Her gaze softened, though her posture remained regal. "I came to Earth to find what we have lost, and I believe I have found it. In you." Mark felt the weight of the room shift onto his shoulders. Every human in the dome was staring at him again. He forced himself to keep his voice steady. "Why me? I'm not anyone important." Salura's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Your importance is not measured by your rank, human. When my ship entered orbit, I studied your transmissions. I listened to the voices of your leaders, your scholars, your poets, your children. But one voice among them was different. Yours." Mark blinked. "Mine." She nodded. "A recording of you teaching your students a human song, a simple melody, yet filled with something my people have forgotten, joy without reason. It is rare among us. And so, I came to see the one who carried it." Mark remembered. Months ago, he had helped a group of young trainees at the outpost learn old Earth folk songs as part of a cultural exchange program. He didn't think anyone outside the base had even noticed. The queen continued, "Among my people, there's an ancient tradition. When a ruler seeks to restore what is lost, they choose a partner from another world. This bond is not forced, it is offered. It is an alliance, a joining of paths. I ask you, human, will you consider such a bond with me?" The room erupted in quiet murmurs. Scientists whispered theories. Soldiers exchanged uncertain looks. Commander Reeves stepped forward. "Your Majesty," the commander said carefully, "this is highly unusual. Earth is not prepared for such an arrangement." Salura's eyes flicked toward him. "Your world is not prepared for many things that are already moving toward it, Commander. The choice I offer is not only for this man, but for your species. It is a bridge between our peoples. If you refuse, others less friendly will take my place." Her words carried no threatened tone, but the meaning was clear. Mark felt a tight knot in his chest. Part of him wanted to say no immediately. This was too big, too strange. But another part of him, curious, restless, wanted to know more. He stepped forward. "If I say yes, what happens?" Salura studied him for a long moment before speaking. "We would begin a period of learning. You would see my world. I would see yours. We would share not just knowledge, but the ways we feel the universe. In time, if both sides agree, we would join as partners, leaders of a shared future." The words sounded formal, almost ceremonial, but Mark could sense something personal beneath them. This was not just politics. There was genuine purpose in her voice. "I need time to think," Mark said honestly. Salura inclined her head. "Time you shall have." My ship will remain near this place for 3 of your days. At the end of that, I will ask again. Choose with care, human. Such an opportunity does not come twice." She turned gracefully, her robe swaying like liquid metal in the sunlight. The guards followed her back toward the silver craft. With a smooth hiss, the hatch closed, and the vessel lifted silently into the sky until it was just a shining speck. Against the morning light, the dome was silent again. But it was a different kind of silence now, one filled with questions, doubts, and possibilities. Commander Reeves placed a firm hand on Mark's shoulder. "You realize what just happened, don't you?" Mark gave a shaky laugh. "Not really. I think I'm still trying to believe it wasn't a dream." The commander's voice lowered. "Dream or not, she didn't just offer you, herself. She offered humanity a seat at a table we didn't even know existed. This could be the most important choice of your life and ours." Mark nodded slowly, his mind still replaying her words, her eyes, and that strange mixture of strength and longing in her voice. He didn't know if he could trust her. He didn't know if he could trust himself. But he knew one thing for certain. The next 3 days would change everything. The silence inside the observation dome felt heavy, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Everyone was still frozen from the strange question the alien queen had asked. Only the quiet hum of the generators reminded them that time was still. Moving. Mark stood in the same spot, unsure if he should speak or wait. His mind spun in circles. Why me? Why that question? The queen stepped forward, her long robe trailing softly over the sand. The golden symbols on it seemed to ripple like sunlight on water. The guards followed at a respectful distance, their spears now resting against their shoulders. When she reached the base of the dome's entrance ramp, she stopped. Her bright green eyes scanned the humans gathered inside before returning to Mark. "I am Salura," she said in her smooth, calm voice, "first ruler of the Virian Empire. My people are many, but they are incomplete." Her words were slow, deliberate. It was as if she wanted each one to sink deep into the minds of her listeners. Mark exchanged a quick glance with Commander Reeves, the man in charge of the outpost. The commander gave a tiny nod, silently urging him to respond. Mark cleared his throat. "Incomplete. How?" he asked cautiously. The queen tilted her head slightly. "We have strength. We have knowledge. We have conquered dangers among the stars. But in gaining these things, we have lost something else, something my ancestors once knew. My people do not laugh as yours do. We do not dream as yours do. We do not feel as yours do." Her gaze softened, though her posture remained regal. "I came to Earth to find what we have lost, and I believe I have found it. In you." Mark felt the weight of the room shift onto his shoulders. Every human in the dome was staring at him again. He forced himself to keep his voice steady. "Why me? I'm not anyone important." Salura's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Your importance is not measured by your rank, human. When my ship entered orbit, I studied your transmissions. I listened to the voices of your leaders, your scholars, your poets, your children. But one voice among them was different. Yours." Mark blinked. "Mine." She nodded. "A recording of you teaching your students a human song, a simple melody, yet filled with something my people have forgotten, joy without reason. It is rare among us. And so, I came to see the one who carried it." Mark remembered. Months ago, he had helped a group of young trainees at the outpost learn old Earth folk songs as part of a cultural exchange program. He didn't think anyone outside the base had even noticed. The queen continued, "Among my people, there's an ancient tradition. When a ruler seeks to restore what is lost, they choose a partner from another world. This bond is not forced, it is offered. It is an alliance, a joining of paths. I ask you, human, will you consider such a bond with me?" The room erupted in quiet murmurs. Scientists whispered theories. Soldiers exchanged uncertain looks. Commander Reeves stepped forward. "Your Majesty," the commander said carefully, "this is highly unusual. Earth is not prepared for such an arrangement." Salura's eyes flicked toward him. "Your world is not prepared for many things that are already moving toward it, Commander." The choice I offer is not only for this man, but for your species. It is a bridge between our peoples. If you refuse, others less friendly will take my place." Her words carried no threatened tone, but the meaning was clear. Mark felt a tight knot in his chest. Part of him wanted to say no immediately. This was too big, too strange. But another part of him, curious, restless, wanted to know more. He stepped forward. "If I say yes, what happens?" Salura studied him for a long moment before speaking. "We would begin a period of learning. You would see my world. I would see yours. We would share not just knowledge, but the ways we feel the universe. In time, if both sides agree, we would join as partners, leaders of a shared future." The words sounded formal, almost ceremonial, but Mark could sense something personal beneath them. This was not just politics. There was genuine purpose in her voice. "I need time to think," Mark said honestly. Salura inclined her head. "Time you shall have. My ship will remain near this place for 3 of your days. At the end of that, I will ask again. Choose with care, human. Such an opportunity does not come twice." She turned gracefully, her robe swaying like liquid metal in the sunlight. The guards followed her back toward the silver craft. With a smooth hiss, the hatch closed, and the vessel lifted silently into the sky until it was just a shining speck against the morning light. The dome was silent again, but it was a different kind of silence now, one filled with questions, doubts, and possibilities. Commander Reeves placed a firm hand on Mark's shoulder. "You realize what just happened, don't you?" Mark gave a shaky laugh. "Not really. I think I'm still trying to believe it wasn't a dream." The commander's voice lowered. "Dream or not, she didn't just offer you herself. She offered humanity a seat at a table we didn't even know existed. This could be the most important choice of your life and ours." Mark nodded slowly, his mind still replaying her words, her eyes, and that strange mixture of strength and longing in her voice. He didn't know if he could trust her. He didn't know if he could trust himself. But he knew one thing for certain. The next 3 days would change everything. The desert morning faded into afternoon, but the tension inside the research outpost only grew heavier. Mark sat at his desk, staring at a blank notebook. He had been asked to write down his thoughts about Queen Salura's proposal. The commander said it might help him see the bigger picture, but every time he tried to write, his pen stopped. His mind kept returning to the moment she had looked directly into his eyes. It hadn't felt like a political move, it felt personal, and that was what made it harder. The door slid open behind him. Commander Reeves stepped inside, followed by Dr. Elena. The chief XENOBIOLOGIST. Reeves spoke first. "We need to talk, Mark. Privately." Mark leaned back in his chair. "Let me guess you want me to say no." "Not exactly," Reeves replied. "We want you to understand the consequences of saying yes or no." Dr. Elena placed a tablet on the desk. It showed an image of the Virian Empire's territory in the galaxy. Their influence stretched across dozens of star systems, like a net of light. "They are powerful," Elena said softly, "stronger than any other alien power we've encountered. But they've also been distant. They don't often form close alliances. This proposal? It's unheard of." Mark frowned. "You think it's a trick?" "Not necessarily," Elena said. "But their culture is different. They value strength, discipline, order. What she's asking for goes against their usual way of doing things. That could mean she's sincere, or it could mean she's desperate." Reeves crossed his arms. "Either way, you're in the middle of it, and like it or not, the choice isn't just yours, it affects the whole planet." Mark closed the notebook. "So you're saying if I refuse, Earth could lose an important ally, and if you accept," Reeves said, "you could be putting yourself and maybe us at risk. You'd be entering a culture you barely understand." Mark rubbed his forehead. "Great, no pressure." That night, Mark couldn't sleep. He stood outside on the observation deck, looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, Salura's silver ship was waiting. Footsteps approached. He turned to see Dr. Elena joining him, holding 2 cups of tea. "You look like you need this," she said, handing him one. Mark smiled faintly. "Thanks, I guess I do." For a while, they stood in silence, sipping tea under the night sky. Then Elena spoke. Do you know what I think? What? I think she's telling the truth about her people losing something. I've studied alien cultures my whole life. The Virion are incredible in many ways, organized, efficient, almost flawless. But they don't create art. They don't tell stories for fun. They don't celebrate birthdays or sing songs for no reason. Those things, they're missing. Mark remembered her words. You laugh as we do not. You dream as we do not. I think she sees those things in you, Elena continued. And maybe she thinks you can bring them back to her people, Mark sighed. But why me? Anyone could teach them about human culture. Maybe, Elena said. But not everyone would make her want to learn. The next day, Salura returned. Her craft descended silently onto the dessert floor, the sun glinting off its smooth surface. The guards stepped out first, scanning the area. Then the queen emerged, her robe flowing in the warm breeze. This time, she came inside the dome. Her presence filled the space without effort, commanding, but calm. Have you thought about my offer, human? She asked, her voice echoing lightly in the room. Mark stepped forward. I have. But before I answer, I need to understand more. Why is this bond so important to you? Salura studied him for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. The Virion Empire stands at a turning point. We have faced no true challenge for generations. My people grow. Hollow. We no longer create. We no longer imagine. Without these things, strength becomes meaningless. She took a slow step closer. Your kind is both strength and wonder. If I can bring that back to my people, they will thrive again, and in return, Earth will gain our protection, our knowledge, our friendship. Mark nodded slowly. And if I refuse, Salura's voice softened. Then I will respect your choice. But others will not come to you as I have. They will not ask. They will take. A chill passed through the room. Reed shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Mark looked at her carefully. If I accept, will I be safe among your people? You will be honored, she said. And you will have a voice in our council. But more than that, you will have the chance to change my people's hearts. There was no hesitation in her tone. Mark took a deep breath. I'm not saying yes. Not yet, but I'm not saying no either. I need to see your world first, if I'm going to decide. I have to understand who you really are and who your people are. Salura's eyes brightened slightly. Then come with me. See what I see. Walk among my people. 3 days remain before I ask again. Spend them with us. Reeves stepped forward sharply. That's not possible. We can't, Mark interrupted. Commander, it's the only way I'll know the truth. Reeves hesitated, clearly torn. Then he gave a slow nod. Fine, but I'm assigning a small escort. No exceptions. Salura inclined her head. Agreed. Prepare yourselves. We leave at dawn. She turned, her guards moving in perfect unison as they followed her out. The silver ship lifted into the air and glided toward the horizon, disappearing once again into the sky. That night, Mark packed what little he needed: basic clothes, a small recording device, and the notebook he still hadn't written in. He stared at its empty pages for a moment, then wrote a single line. Tomorrow, I step into another world. He didn't know if he was walking into a future of peace or danger, but he knew one thing: his answer would come soon, and it would change the fate of both worlds. The sun had barely touched the horizon when Mark stepped outside the outpost. The desert air was cool, the sand still holding the night's chill. Above him, the silver ship hovered silently, its smooth surface glowing faintly in the pale light. Queen Salura stood near the base of the ship's ramp, her robe moving gently in the breeze. Her guards were already in position, tall and still like statues. Commander Reeves and a security officer stood nearby, making final checks on their gear. Ready? Salura asked, her voice calm as always. Mark nodded, though his stomach felt like it was full of knots. As ready as I'll ever be. They boarded the ship, stepping into a wide chamber that glowed with soft light. The air smelled faintly of something fresh and unfamiliar, like rain on stone. Seats shaped like curved petals folded open from the walls, and Mark took one. Fastening the strange harness Salura's guards indicated, the ship rose without a sound. Through a wide viewing panel, Mark watched the desert shrink below them, the outpost becoming a small glint of silver in the sand. Then the sky darkened to deep blue, then to black, and the stars opened before them like a scattered sea of light. Salura watched him quietly, as if studying his reaction. Few humans have seen this view with their own eyes, she said. It's amazing, Mark admitted, and a little scary. Her eyes softened, as all great journeys are. Hours later, the ship slid smoothly into orbit above a massive planet. Its surface shimmered with oceans the color of liquid jade, broken by silver continents that glowed faintly in the sunlight. This is Virion Prime, Salura said. My home. Mark leaned closer to the glass. It's beautiful. As they descended, he saw cities spread like intricate patterns of silver and green. Towers curving upward like the branches of a forest, great bridges arched between them, and vast gardens bloomed on rooftops. The air traffic moved in perfect order, no sudden turns. No chaos. The ship landed in a grand courtyard surrounded by towering spires. As the hatch opened, Mark felt the air warm, rich, and carrying the scent of flowers. Salura gestured for him to follow. Guards and officials bowed as she passed, their movements precise. Mark noticed that no one smiled, not even in greeting. Their faces were calm, polite, but almost empty. He whispered to one of the human escorts. She wasn't exaggerating. They really don't show much emotion. Salura led them through wide halls decorated with flowing banners of gold and green. Murals of past battles stretched across the walls, each one showing the Virions' victories over distant enemies. Finally, they entered a large chamber with a tall, arched window that looked out over the city. Salura turned to Mark. This will be your quarters during your stay. From here, you may observe and learn. Tomorrow, I will take you to the council. Before Mark could answer, a chime sounded from a panel in the wall. Salura stepped toward it, pressing her hand against the surface. The panel shifted, revealing a glowing screen filled with alien text. Her expression, though still controlled, changed. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What is it? Mark asked. A transmission, she said, from the outer sectors. One of her guards stepped forward. Your Majesty, it is from the Morvic fleet. Salura's voice grew quiet. So they have moved sooner than expected. Mark stepped closer. Who are they? She looked at him for a long moment. A rival power. The Morvic see this bond I offer as a threat to their influence. They believe the Virion should remain isolated, that we should not share our strength with others, especially not with humans. Reeves frowned. And what does this transmission say? Salura turned back to the screen. It says they are coming. Their ships are already on the edge of our space. They demand I withdraw my proposal, or they will take action. The room went still. Mark felt a cold weight settle in his chest. Take action? You mean attack? Salura's voice was steady. They will attempt to force me to step down. If they succeed, another ruler will take my place, one who will close our gates to you forever. Reeves glanced at Mark. That means if you want this alliance, you're on a clock. If they arrive and remove her from power, the deal's over. Salura straightened her posture, her presence filling the room again. We still have time. But when they come, words may not be enough. Mark met her gaze. Then what happens? You will see, she said simply. That evening, Mark stood at the window of his quarters, watching the city lights below. From this height, the streets looked like glowing threads weaving through a vast tapestry. Airships moved between the towers like fireflies. He thought about what Salura had said about the Morvic, about the risks she was taking. She could have chosen to ignore Earth entirely. Instead, she had flown across the galaxy to make this offer. And now, because of it, a powerful enemy was coming for her. Part of him wanted to step back, to let this be her fight. But another part knew that if Earth lost this chance, it might never come again. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. Salura entered, her robe catching the light from the window. I thought you might wish to see this, she said, holding a small device. She placed it on the table, and a glowing projection appeared, a star map with two clusters of lights. One was labeled in Virion symbols, the other, larger and moving quickly, pulsed red. The Morvic fleet, she said. They will be here in 4 of your days. Mark stared at the red lights for days. That's not much time. It is enough, she said calmly, if you choose to stand with me. Mark met her eyes, and if I don't, then I will face them alone, she said, and Earth will watch from afar. The weight of her words settled between them. Mark didn't answer right away. He turned back to the window, looking out at the city. Somewhere deep inside, he knew he couldn't just walk away. But saying yes would mean stepping into a fight he didn't fully understand for now. All he could do was prepare. The next morning, the city awoke in perfect order from the high balcony of his quarters. Mark watched streams of veering citizens moving through the streets in neat, quiet lines. They moved with purpose, each step measured, each glance forward. There was no shouting, no laughter, not even the casual conversations he would expect in a human city. Salura arrived shortly after sunrise, her robe shimmering softly in the golden light. Today, she said, you begin the trial of worth, Mark. Frown. Trial. You didn't mention that before. It is tradition, she replied. No outsider may stand beside a varying ruler without proving themselves. This is not just for the council's approval, it is for the hearts of my people. Commander. Reeves stepped forward. What exactly does this trial involve? Salura looked at Mark. 3 challenges. One of mine, one of courage, and one of moral strength. Pass them, and the council will accept you as my chosen partner. Fail, and they will refuse the bond, no matter my wishes. Mark took a slow breath. All right, let's do it. The first challenge, the maze of thought. They traveled to a vast hall deep within the palace. The floor was covered with glowing patterned circles, lines, and shifting shapes that moved like waves. Varying officials stood along the edges, watching silently. Salura gestured toward the floor. This is the maze of thought. It is an ancient puzzle designed to test the mind's flexibility. You must cross from one side to the other without stepping on a pattern that will trap you. The path changes as you move. Mark studied the patterns. They shifted every few seconds, turning safe spots into traps and traps into safe spots. He had no map, no instructions beyond what she had told him. Reeves muttered under his breath. This looks impossible. Mark took his first step, a circle. Under his foot glowed green safe. He looked ahead, watching for a pattern. He noticed that some shapes always turned dangerous after 3 changes, while others never stayed dangerous twice in a row. He moved slowly at first, counting in his head. Step, wait, step. Soon he was halfway through. The watchers whispered quietly, clearly surprised at his progress. Near the end, a section changed faster than before. Mark hesitated, then made a leap to a spot he guessed would be safe. The circle flashed green. He exhaled in relief and stepped onto the final tile. The officials nodded. Salura's eyes glimmered faintly. Well done, human. The second challenge, the Hall of Echo's next challenge, was far from the palace. In a cavern outside the city, the Hall of Echoes was a vast space filled with tall crystal pillars. Salura explained, this test is of courage. You will walk alone to the center of the hall and retrieve the symbol placed there. But the hall reflects not just sound, it reflects thought. What you fear most will appear before you. Mark didn't like the sound of that. Still, he stepped inside. The air was cool, almost cold, and each step he took echoed softly. The crystal pillars shimmered faintly, reflecting strange shadows. Halfway in, he began to hear voices, his own voice, but twisted, telling him he would fail, that he didn't belong here. He kept walking, trying to ignore it. Then the shadows moved. Figures stepped out from behind the pillars, people from his past, disappointed faces, accusing eyes. He knew they weren't real, but they felt real. His heart pounded, but he forced himself forward. The voices grew louder, the shadows closer, until they almost surrounded him. Finally, he saw the symbol, a small silver disc resting on a pedestal. He grabbed it, and the illusions vanished instantly. The hall was silent again. When he stepped outside, Salura took the disc from him. Fear is a clever enemy, she said. You faced it and did not turn back. The third challenge, the Circle of Choice, the final challenge, took place that evening, in a round chamber lit by a single beam of light. Taviran stood inside the circle, an elderly woman and a young guard in full armor. Salura's voice was serious. This is the test of moral strength. The guard has stolen from the woman. Both deny it. You have one chance to question them and choose who is guilty. If you accuse wrongly, the council will see it as a failure. Mark stepped into the circle. The woman stood with calm dignity, the guard with rigid posture. He asked them questions, simple ones at first, about where they had been, what they had done. Both gave confident answers, but when he asked the guard about the items stolen, a small carved pendant, the guard hesitated slightly before answering. It was almost nothing, but it was enough. Mark turned to Salura. It's the guard. The guard's face stayed expressionless, but two officials stepped forward and removed him from the circle. The woman bowed to Mark. Salura nodded once. You see more than most. The trial is complete. That night, the council gathered in a great chamber lined with tall banners. Dozens of Varians sat in curved rows, their eyes fixed on Mark. Salura stood beside him, her presence calm and regal. One of the counselors spoke. The human has passed the 3 challenges, but the Morvic fleet approaches. We question whether this alliance will bring strength or danger. Mark stepped forward. I know I'm not from your world. I know I'm not like you. But maybe. That's the point. You have skill, power, and order. Humans, we bring something else, something you said you've lost. If we work together, maybe we can both be stronger. The chamber was silent for a moment. Then the head counselor spoke. We will not oppose the Queen's choice. Salura placed a hand lightly on Mark's shoulder. Then it is decided. You will stand with me. Outside the chamber, Reeves caught up with him. You realize this means you're now a political target, right? Mark gave a tired smile. Yeah, but at least I passed the test. Above the city, the night sky shimmered with distant stars. Somewhere beyond them, the Morvic fleet was coming closer. The trials were over, but the real fight had not yet begun. The morning sun rose slowly over Varian Prime, casting long golden beams across the city. The twin moons had faded into the early light, leaving only the bright shimmer of the alien oceans and the green-tinged continents below. The city, still, pristine and orderly, seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. Mark stood at the edge of the palace balcony, looking out over the sprawling metropolis. For the first time since he had arrived, he felt a sense of belonging here, not just as a visitor, but as someone who could make a difference. Salura appeared at his side, her robe flowing softly in the gentle breeze. Today marks a new chapter, she said, her voice calm and commanding. Not just for my people, but for yours as well. Mark turned to her. It feels unreal. I never imagined I would be here, standing beside a queen of another world. Salura's green eyes softened. Neither did I, but sometimes the universe chooses paths we do not expect, and it is those paths that lead to growth, understanding, and strength. The council gathered in the great chamber for the first time since the Morvic fleet retreated. Dozens of Varian leaders sat in their curved rows, their faces more attentive than ever before. Even Commander Reeves, though human, had been invited to witness the ceremony as a representative of Earth. Salura addressed the council with calm authority. The human who has stood with me through the trials has proven more than worthiness. He has shown insight, courage, and moral strength. He has saved our city without bloodshed, using strategy and understanding qualities my people have not seen in generations. The counselors exchanged quiet glances, then nodded in agreement. One of them, an elder with silver-tinted hair, spoke. Your Majesty is right. This human has brought something unique, something we lacked. We accept the bond. Mark stepped forward, his heart pounding. He had prepared for speeches, but the words came naturally. I do not belong to your world, but I have learned from it. I have seen your people's strength, discipline, and brilliance, and I hope, in return, to share something of Earth with you, our creativity, our emotions, our laughter. Together, we can be stronger. A hush fell over the chamber. Then the elder counselor nodded again, his voice quiet but approving. So it shall be. Let this bond be recognized by all. Outside, the city erupted in celebration. The Varian citizens moved through the streets in perfect formation, But something was different. Subtle gestures, faint smiles, quiet expressions of joy. Music floated through the plazas, soft and unfamiliar, blending the human melodies Mark had introduced with varying harmonics. Mark watched, amazed. Even in a society of perfect order, there was room for emotion, room for life. Salura stood beside him, her eyes bright with pride. You see, human, change can begin in small ways. Even in those who seem most unyielding. Mark smiled. It's incredible. I never imagined I could help bring this to your people. Salura's gaze met his. And you have, not just for my people, but for Earth as well. Your world now has allies among the stars. Your people have a chance to learn, to grow, and to survive in ways they never could alone. Over the next few days, Mark was introduced to varying culture more deeply. He walked through vast gardens that floated in the air, visited libraries containing knowledge from countless worlds, and observed their advanced technology in action. But more importantly, he began to understand the subtle ways his presence influenced the Viren. Guards now offered faint nods of respect rather than rigid stares. Citizens lingered a little longer in the plazas, observing him with curiosity rather than mere caution. Small moments of laughter and conversation began to appear among groups of officials. Mark realized that the human qualities Salura had valued, curiosity, humor, compassion, were slowly restoring balance to the Viren society. It wasn't domination. It wasn't command. It was connection. One evening, Mark and Salura walked together along a balcony overlooking the ocean. The twin moons had risen, casting silver reflections across the water. You have done more than you realize, Salura said softly. Your presence here has reminded us that strength alone is not enough. It is heart, understanding, and courage that make true leaders. Mark looked out over the shimmering water. I've learned a lot too, about your people, your world, and even myself. I didn't think I could make a difference, but I see now that even one person can. Salura nodded, and sometimes one person is all it takes to change the course of history. They stood in silence for a moment, the quiet hum of the city and the distant sound of water creating a peaceful atmosphere. For the first time, Mark felt completely at ease in this alien world, like he belonged. Weeks later, the human delegation returned from Earth to witness the formal alliance. Scientists, diplomats, and leaders marveled at Viren technology and society. Mark served as a bridge between the worlds, helping the two species understand each other. Even Commander Reeves admitted, grudgingly, that humans had much to learn from the Viren, and that the Viren could learn much from humans as well. In a ceremony held in the central plaza, Salura and Mark stood side by side. She placed a ceremonial bracelet of silver and green around his wrist, a symbol of trust and partnership between the worlds. The bond between Earth and Viren Prime begins today. Salura announced, together, we will face challenges, explore the stars, and build a future of cooperation and growth. Mark felt the weight of the moment, and yet it was not heavy, it was full of possibility. He smiled and looked out over the plaza, over the people, and up into the galaxy that now seemed a little smaller, a little closer. As the celebrations continued, Mark reflected on his journey from the desert outpost on Earth to the heart of an alien empire. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and impossible challenges. He had learned to trust himself, to act wisely, and to embrace the unexpected. And now, he stood as a symbol of hope, a human who had helped unite two worlds. He had been tested. He had learned, and he had grown. Salura's hand brushed lightly against his, and he looked at her. Are you ready for what comes next? She asked. Mark nodded. I am. Whatever the future holds, we'll face it together. Salura smiled, a genuine, warm smile that marked the beginning of a new era. Then, let us begin. Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, the galaxy vast and full of promise. For the first time, humanity was not alone, and the Viren had rediscovered something they had lost. Together, they would explore new worlds, face new challenges, and create a future where understanding, courage, and heart mattered as much as strength. And so, a new chapter began, not just for Mark and Salura, but for all of humanity and the Varying Empire, a chapter of hope, of alliance, and of shared destiny among the stars. The galaxy had changed, and with it, so had the possibilities of what humanity could become.